Hey guys, welcome to my conversation with your two-time Georgia state champion from Woodward Academy, Robby DeHaven. Robby, how's it sound to be two-time?
Sounds good. I'm not going to be satisfied till the end of next year, but I've been excited to get out there. My freshman year, it was a lot. Like it was the craziest tournament I'd ever been to, pressure wise, and it got to me a little bit. Last year came a little bit more prepared, and my junior year, it was a good time.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Freshman year, if you were to look back and give yourself a little piece of advice about coming into that tournament, now that you know what you know, what would you
Right.
tell yourself?
Just to loosen up. Like I was taking it too seriously. Um, it's kind of like I've talked to my dad about it. It's kind of like when you're in elementary school and you have like a midterm exam or something like that, and you're stressing over it and you're freaked out and like your parents are on you about it, but like it really doesn't matter that much
Right, right.
in hindsight. And state tournament, huge thing, but like my own emotions and my mental state is more important to me than hyping something up too much. Like I'm not the kind of guy to like get super aggressive right before I go out or do 100 push-ups. Like I'm listening to music, getting happy, increasing dopamine. And if I had the same pre-match routine as I have now that I had in freshman year, I would be more confident on the mat. And I think the mental part of wrestling at any state level is and as you get better in wrestling, gradually increases compared to the physical side. And so, state tournament that really shows because you have a bunch of kids there that are the same caliber pretty much. And, you know, a lot of times you see finals matches where the only difference between the two kids is um, mental, and especially in college. Like, you mean totally
Yeah,
in college.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the level gets very close. I mean, now you have your Vito Arujas
Oh, yeah.
and those sort of
Yeah.
things, but you're absolutely right. The vast
Right.
majority of them are pretty close to one another. And we're going to go off the mat here in a second, but I just want to continue this questioning, and that is, how did you how did you come around to mentally making that transition for yourself?
So it's been a journey, and it started when I was young. I've been wrestling since I was 5 years old, and my dad's always been my coach. When my dad was in high school and college, he would get real like pumped and excited and angry, and he'd embrace the energy of the crowd, and he'd turn it into like super big testosterone guy, like pumping his chest around, getting hype. And he would try to like get me to do that when I was younger, when I was way younger. And I quickly realized that like I get super nervous. So like I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I can't at this point I can't channel it as well that way as compared to like putting on music that makes me happy, and like being grateful for things that I have really plays into it. If I look at, and Compound Wrestling has helped me a lot with this as well. Like they have this whole mentality on their team, um, where if you if you can look at being at states as an opportunity instead of as just like a means of success and this big place where great accomplishments happen, it can be more daunting. It doesn't make you as happy. And my dad's helped me a lot. I figured that um, my dad's really done the research, but I've put it into action. When I'm happy before my match, I perform a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my muscles are looser. You see Bam Minelli out on the mat, always has a
Yeah,
smile on his face.
yeah.
Always has. And even if he's losing, like you'll see him, he'll go out to the middle, he'll recheck himself, put a smile on his face. And it's the same kind of thing. You can trick your brain into being happy in tough scenarios just by smiling. It's very cool.
Very cool. So you now have mentioned it twice. You listen to something that gets you in that frame of mind. Can you give me an example of a song
We're
that
all
does it?
over the place. We're all over the place. I really attribute songs to memory. Gunner Flipwist at my freshman state tournament, I was listening to like some awful rap song. It wasn't good. It was bad. It was super aggressive. And he comes over, he's like, dude, listen to this. And it was the sound, or it was the song from the soundtrack of Surf's Up. And it's Drive by Incubus. And so like we would jam out to Drive, and and then I'd go out there and I'd kick butt, and it'd feel great. And that song really helps because every time I listen to it, I'm like back to being this little kid under a better kid's wing who's now a D1 wrestler. And it's
Right.
like he's just like, dude, chill out and listen to this song. And so that
And
that
have
helps a
fun.
lot. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And another song I found with my teammate Heath is Gabrielle by Ween, and it has a sick guitar riff in it. And like I'll be out there and I'll be playing the guitar, like, and I'm sure I look like a total douchebag, but I I love it. And I'm zoned in, and it gets me my flow
Well,
state. So that's what matters.
right, right. Well, and you're having fun, and
Yeah.
I think actually you mentioned Bambinelli, and that's one of the things I think really works for him is that
Yeah.
he's having fun, and I think
Mhm.
that's awesome. All right, so we are going to go off the mat
Sweet.
because I want to know some things off the mat about you. So let's start with food. All right, favorite food?
I love oysters.
Do
A good
you
oyster. Yeah.
raw oysters?
Oh yeah. And lower like a steak tartare.
Okay.
Oyster steak tartare. Those
All
are
right,
top
all
two.
right. How about a food you really don't like?
Um, I can't even Brussels sprouts. I don't like Brussels sprouts.
Okay.
That's about it.
Okay. All right. That's cool. You like all food.
I like all food. I'm a foodie. I love food. Yeah.
All right. Favorite, yeah, favorite subject in school. Not necessarily your best subject
Mm,
in school, but your favorite.
microeconomics,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, I love I always thought about it as like a money class. You're learning about money, but you're learning about how people think and what
Hmm.
kind of decisions they make. And I think that's really cool because you can kind of like statistic size. You can put actions of people into numbers, and I think that's cool. And you can measure what they're going to do next.
Yeah, kind of like behavioral economics
Right.
and
Right.
things like that.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right. How about a subject that you're like, it's not really my thing.
Spanish isn't my thing. It's I think I liked computer science when we were learning how to code, and that's kind of like a language too. But Spanish, I can't get into it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. You know what? Sounds actually very similar to me because I
Yeah.
love economics, things like that.
Right.
First, I love the idea of like other language, but I just can't. It
Hmm.
doesn't work for me. I don't know what
Hmm.
it is.
Yeah.
All right. So, is there a talent that Robby has off the mat that people don't know about?
I feel like I should know the answer to this question. Um, I think that's a better thing you'd have to ask my friends because like I'll just do something that's completely random that like sometimes I don't know I can do. And like my friends are just like, what? Like, when did you do this? But there's nothing really specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. If I gave you a time machine, are we heading to the future or are we heading to the past? I
That's a
know you
good
want to go
question.
both
We're getting we're,
directions,
we're
but
getting to
which
the
one?
serious questions now, aren't we?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
important.
Um, I have this bet with my friends. We try to see how many years, it's a hard question to ask. I'm not good at asking it. It's how many years would you have to travel back in time to make the best high school wrestler now be equivalent to the best wrestler in the world? And
Oh,
so I say like 15, 25 years, somewhere in there.
okay.
Some of my friends are saying like way more than that. Uh, but I don't know, just to see how like far this sport's evolving and stuff.
Yeah, so you would go back in time
I'd
to
go
be
back
able
in
to
time.
make that assessment.
Yeah, and I'd win the money. I think I'd win the bet.
All right, all right, all right. How much do you think it's gonna? I mean, if you were to go forward in time, I bet you have a
I
similar
bet
question,
I
man.
bet it's going to get to the point where the best high schools have the same or if not close to the same amount of resources. The best high school wrestlers will have about the same amount of resources as some like mid-tier wrestling colleges, D1 colleges. And I think if our sport keeps growing and keep getting better, and I think people are falling away from football a little bit. I don't really know, at least in my area, that seems to be the consensus.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying wrestling's going to take that spot. It's not super popular, but
No.
combat sports has definitely been on the rise lately. And you know, just depending on all those factors, it could plateau or it could continuously just go straight up. I don't know.
All right, so I want to go on the mat and talk a little bit about, you mentioned it previously, but give me the story. When did you start wrestling? How'd you start? Who got you into it? And more importantly, what were your first thoughts about like your first practice or your first match?
So, this is a good story. My dad was a D1 football player at Rutgers, and then he went to Pitt and he transferred to Pitt and started wrestling there. And so when I was really little, he had me on the mat when I was 5 years old. I was practicing with a team called the Nittany, or not the Nittany Lions, with the McLean Lions in McLean, Virginia,
Mhm.
and it was a federation team. And in Virginia, federation was really bad, but it was where the kids went, played dodgeball, and then went and wrestled. And I loved it a lot, but my dad didn't let me compete until I was about 7. And I asked him, I was like, I'm going to quit if you don't let me go out and compete because all these other kids are coming back with these little ribbons for the weekend, and I want one. I'm just coming to practice and not competing. So he brought me to my first match, and I got my butt kicked. Like, it was so bad. He didn't let me cut weight. I didn't even know what cutting weight was. I got my butt kicked, and I cried. Like, it was awful. It was awful. I was embarrassed. I begged my dad to let me out there, and I let him down. And he picked me up and he said, "All right, back in the room." And we kept working on it. And then I stopped playing dodgeball in the games and I started wrestling a little bit more. And I started going to middle school practices. And when I was in middle school, I was going to high school practices. And um, now I'm looking back and it's like, holy cow, it's been this whole journey and it's super
Yeah,
cool to see.
very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. All right. So, you guys have a great program at Woodward and, and lots of really talented wrestlers and so on and so forth. I'm really interested as someone who has won multiple state titles now, and you've had a lot of really good partners and that sort of thing. For new kids who are coming in and maybe you've never wrestled before, what would be kind of your advice to that?
Um, don't get caught up in the wins and losses, especially like if you're a JV, if you're coming on into high school for the first time and you're a JV on your team or backup, just try to wrestle as much as you can and enjoy the process. Don't look at it like, oh, I got to go to practice today and get my butt kicked. And, sometimes when Matthew Singleton and Killick were in the room, I
Mm-hmm.
was going in every day and just getting my butt kicked. And it like, it sometimes I get to the point I'm like, God, this sucks. But then I'd go out and I'd wrestle a match and I'd be like, okay, there's no way this kid's better than Matthew. Like, there's no chance. And so I go, I wrestle and I win, and it feels great. And Matthew's there in the corner cheering for me. So you got to enjoy the whole process, not just going in and doing sprints and thinking about all the negatives about it because it's a tough sport. You got to be tough to do it. And an easy way, um, at least after the first like 2 weeks of your first practice, the easiest way to fall in love with it and continue is to think about the positives, how good it feels to be with your boys all weekend who you struggle with together, and that builds a close bond. And it's like these friends, and I've played other sports and I've talked to other kids who play football and wrestling in high school, and they all say like the wrestling team has the best bond. So if you can have fun on your trips, even if you're losing, you'll have a good time.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, what a couple more questions. Number one, I know you've been doing some visits, and we talked about that and everything else. Is there is there a particular place? I mean, is there a culture? What are you looking for at that next level? I assume you're going to wrestling college, but what's the environment going to look like for Robbie DeHaven?
So I want to be at a place where I feel like the school is supporting me in my wrestling journey, and where the wrestling team is supporting me in my academic journey. And if I can find a place where the community between student athletes and students isn't divided, um, and a place where the resources for student athletes are just as into their job and excited about what they're doing as the teachers, um, I think that would be awesome because it'd create a feedback loop of positivity in a community, instead of division. And I think that's sweet. Um, Also, a coach that I can talk to and have fun with, and a team that I can build a bond with,
Mhm.
is important. And yeah.
Very cool. Last question I have for you, and I think you pretty much have answered it up to this point in time, but I still want to ask just in case you kind of have a different take, and that is, why is the sport special to you?
Um, a big reason's my dad. He's been my coach for my whole life. He's come to every single one of my meets. He's been at almost every single one of my practices, even if he's not the head coach. I mean, he found a way to work in here at Woodward so he can be at every single one of my practices. And I used to not like it. Like I used to be like, God, Dad, why are you always watching me? But now I'm
Right.
like, I look in the corner, I did something cool. I look and I'm like, ah, and he's looking at me, clapping and laughing, and it's awesome. I love it, and it's I have a really special connection with my dad because of it, and that combined with the lessons I've learned, and the things I figured out about myself through wrestling have been very important. So every wrestler knows, and it's impossible to just tell someone that doesn't wrestle how real it is, but every wrestler knows that there's lessons and things that any young man, any young woman can learn through wrestling, that they know they're going to have for the rest of their lives. And I think that's why it's a really cool sport. It's very unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Robbie? I couldn't have said it better. That was awesome. I want to say congratulations on winning another state title.
Thank you.
I wish you the best of luck at college, but first, another run to another state title because I know that's first. And best of luck in the future, man.
Thank you, sir. I
All
appreciate
right.
that.
You take care.
Yep. You too.